Oh, welcome, Gridiron Gang. We're back.
Oh, hey, I didn't see you there.
Now we're back to talk about the tight ends, Drew. The top 10 tight ends going into the 2020 season. We just a couple of days ago, you guys were getting it a couple of days ago. We're recording this on the same day, but we talked about the top 10 running backs. Now we're going to talk about the top 10 tight ends, a position that is very, for a lot of people, frustrating. Because you got a top, 3, 4, 5 tight ends that are great and will produce big numbers for you. And then everybody else is just like an abyss of darkness and sadness. And it's almost like you're playing without a tight end sometimes. And you look at your lineup and you weep. At least I do. How do you feel about the tight ends?
This might sound dramatic, but your team is only as good as your tight end is.
I don't think that's that dramatic. I think it's kind of accurate, and I think it's sad.
Because there's not many good ones. There's 32 good ones because they're better than everybody else. That's why they're in the NFL. But there are only about, I'd say 6 worthy tight ends. The rest of them is kind of like a crapshoot.
But it is important to try to identify the ones that will break out. Try to identify. It's hard. It's very hard because who would have thunk it, right? That Mark Andrews would have did what he did last year. Who would have thought that Austin Hooper was going to have that breakout kind of year? So it is still important. And we are going to try to talk about them. The top 10 tight ends. I will kick us off with the number 1 tight end in fantasy football. And that's pretty simple. It's Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce, who had 97 receptions last year, about 1,200 yards and 5 touchdowns. He averaged 12.9 fantasy points and was a tight end 1 last year. He was the most targeted tight end and the 11th most targeted player, period, in the NFL, which is kind of ridiculous. It's just simple. He's an elite tight end in an elite offense, being thrown the ball to by an elite quarterback. And the only question that we have is, are you willing to pay for him? Because he's going, he's fluctuating. His ADP is about 17, 19 overall. So he's going, depending on if you're a 10-team or a 12-team league, he's going about second round.
Second.
It's hard. I don't want to pay for a tight end in the second round because you're leaving elite players up there. You're leaving a lot of great running backs, wide receivers, and you play a lot of those, multiple of those every single week. So are you willing to pay for a Travis Kelce? I'm not. I like to wait.
I am.
And so this is kind of the different strategy, fantasy football strategy, because it's important. And we'll talk about that as we go as well. But tight end 1, Travis Kelce. Drew?
So, yeah, he's definitely my number 1 as well. Last year was kind of like a dip from what he was the year before. He was still nominated to the Pro Bowl. The 2018, he was an all-pro tight end for good reason. He had, he's able to come in here and average 12.8 yards per catch, which is really good. And when he averages, he averages about 9 catches per game at 12.8 yards per catch. Like, that's wide receiver numbers. But he's still, like, what is he, 6'7"? What is he?
It's an incredible weapon to have.
6'6", 260. He's just a matchup nightmare. So that's why he's my number 1. No offense to anybody else out there in the NFL. I'm sorry, 49ers fans. We love George Kittle. But Travis Kelce, at this moment, is our number 1.
And George Kittle's number 2. George Kittle is a great tight end. He had 85 receptions last year, 1,000 yards, 1,053, 5 touchdowns, was a tight end 2.
Chase, I just got your message. Congratulations.
And didn't play all 16 games. So that's now 2 years in a row of elite tight end production for Kittle. And you have to believe that this year will be more of the same. San Francisco made it to the Super Bowl, and they have a lot to prove. I think this team is going to come back with a vengeance. I think they're going to at least try. I don't think they'll be successful, but they're trying to come back to the Super Bowl. And George Kittle is a big part of that. But I truly do believe that George Kittle is San Francisco's number one receiving option.
Absolutely.
Deebo Samuel is there.
San Francisco's number one option,
offense,
period.
Yeah. Deebo Samuel's there, and sure, he's great. Emmanuel Sanders is now gone. And so that just even opens up more targets for George Kittle. And they brought in Brandon Ayuk, but Kittle has to be the go-to target for Jimmy G. He has been, and he will continue, in my opinion. So how much do you trust this San Francisco offense? That's the question. How much do you trust this San Francisco offense to produce or allow Kittle to produce the same numbers?
I trust it really well.
A lot, yeah.
A lot, because, as much as they have Deebo Samuel, they have Brandon Ayuk, they have, fill in the blank, these guys. The one that stays constant is George Kittle. He last year, 2018 is when he really kind of burst on the scene. And then 2019, we all know who George Kittle is now. So
right.
He's somebody that he has he averages 13.6 yards per catch per reception, but in about 9.6 catches a game. Oh, wait, no, that's really high. That's wrong. That was the wrong one. Yeah, 9.6 yards a game. I know that fluctuates, but plus last year he had 5 touchdowns, and the year before he had 5 touchdowns. He's not going to give you as many touchdowns as George Kittle, but I do think that he definitely has the yardage and the catches too. Last year, receptions, 85 receptions. So, and then the year before that he had 61. So
yeah, with tight ends, targets is key because in a lot of teams, they're not a big part of their offense. And so if you have a tight end that gets a lot of receptions, a lot of targets, it's kind of like running back. Volume is king. It is. With my number 3, I have Zach Ertz. 88 receptions, 916 yards, and 6 touchdowns last year. He was the tight end 5. He had the second most targets for the tight end position with 135 targets last year. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that at times he was pretty much the only receiving option in Philadelphia. This team was just devastated with injuries. And Zach Ertz was like the only one there. I guess they got a couple more options. They brought in Jalen Reagor in the draft. Miles Sanders is still there. And he was there last year, though, so I don't really count that for this. But they also lost Nelson Aguilar. So they bring in a rookie wide receiver, but then they lose a veteran. So my point here being that Zach Ertz will continue to be the focal point of this passing offense, the focal point for Carson Wentz. And I thought about moving him down a little bit because we'll talk about his backup, who made some noise last year, but Zach Ertz is still very reliable. His floor is as safe as anybody's out there. That's why he's number 3.
The reason why he's my number 3 is he's going to be consistent every year, especially because he has always been, and it's not a bad thing, he has always been, and probably always will be, Carson Wentz's safety blanket. Whenever somebody else is covered, who is always open? Zach Ertz. He's not going to be able. The reason why he doesn't have that big of a yards per reception average is only 10.6 is because he's always run that little out route or that slant to help bail out Carson Wentz. Now, he does have a pretty good touchdown average. The past 3 years, he has a pretty good, he has 7 touchdowns. He averages 7 touchdowns. But, I think that he's better touchdown rates than George Kittle, but a little less of the yardage or receptions. But like I said, he is going to be consistent because he is Carson Wentz's favorite. So there you go.
Tight end 4, Mark Andrews. I thought about moving up to 3, but I'll tell you why I have him at 4. It's quite simply the fact that he's more of a touchdown-dependent tight end. Last year, he had 64 receptions, only 64 receptions. The last few guys are in the 80s and 90s. 852 yards, but he had 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns. He only missed one game. And, he only missed one game, but he did have some injury issues throughout the year. He was the tight end 4 for the year. They got rid of his competition, though. Hayden Hurst is gone. And in a team where he was so often looked for by Lamar Jackson, it's hard not to like Mark Andrews. He had over 20 more targets than the next targeted receiver in this team, which was Hollywood Brown. Over 20 more targets. Mark Andrews, the tight end. But again, he's more of a touchdown-dependent tight end. He doesn't get a lot of receptions, as many receptions as the other elite tight ends. So if the touchdown numbers go down even a little bit, he will fall. Excuse me. I'm blank. I'll take that out. If his touchdown numbers go down a little bit, he will fall and slip on the list. So that's why I have him at number 4 and not number 3, even though I love Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews is my number 4 as well. Like I said, this is going to be kind of a more boring episode just because we agree. Now, the reason why I have him here is not because he's Lamar Jackson's favorite target, but he is a red zone monster. Through the last year, he had more receptions in the red zone than any other player. So on this Ravens team, not any player in the league, but he's able to. He's a mismatch. He's a big dude. He can go up and get it. He can run through you. Whatever you need him to do, he can do it in that red zone. That's why I expect him. Like he said, he might have a dip in production, but then again, he might not. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, for him, it all has to do with touchdowns. Like I said, he's more of a touchdown-dependent tight end. So we'll see if he continues to get these high number of touchdowns. Number 5, I have Darren Waller from the Las Vegas Raiders. He had 90 receptions last year, 1,145 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He averaged 11 fantasy points for the year, and he was the tight end 3. For a lot of last year, it seemed like the passing offense revolved around Waller, and he was the 3rd most targeted tight end last year. They still have Tyrell Williams there. Hunter Renfrow are coming back. They've added Nelson Aguilar to Las Vegas. Not to mention they drafted Jerry Jeudy. And so all this is concerning for Waller this year. So there's a lot of mouths to feed. He was the tight end 3. I do believe that his production will dip. I do not think he will be anywhere as high this year.
Yeah.
But it's not that hard to be the tight end 5 at the end of the year. And I think he will end up right about here. And he's one of those tight ends where if you don't want to pay premium price for the elite tight ends, you're still not getting him for free. But Darren Waller is a great option.
Okay. This is where we first disagree. My number 5 guy is number 5 or number 4? Number 5. Number 5 is Jack Doyle. I'm not trying to be a homer here. I know it's very known that I'm a Colts fan, but you look at what he's able to do. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. Last year he was a Pro Bowler, and he's getting a guy in Phillip Rivers as his quarterback. You think about who Phillip Rivers loves the most: Antonio Gates and Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry, even though he's been injury prone, he still has pretty high numbers for a tight end.
Yeah, and actually that's one of the reasons why I opted to leave Hunter Henry out of my top 10 because the tight end loving Phillip Rivers is gone.
Exactly. And I think that because Phillip Rivers loves his tight ends so much, I think that will definitely benefit Jack Doyle because even though Jack Doyle, the reason why he is a Pro Bowler is because he is old, reliable. He's able to go out there and catch that ball across the middle. He's even there to get that first down or even that goal line touchdown. He is just somebody that can go out there and you can just say, Jack, go get it. He'll go get it. And I think that Phillip Rivers will definitely come in here and make something special out of this. So he's not a wow you with your touchdowns, but he'll wow you with his catches. I think that he's going to have a lot, kind of like Zach Ertz. He's going to dink and dunk, but eventually he's going to rack up. So maybe this year, hopefully, both for fantasy football players and for me as a Colts fan, Jack Doyle's touchdown numbers will skyrocket.
Listen, for my number 6 tight end of the going into the 2020 year, I have Evan Ingram. And I know this is not going to be a popular decision because he's burned a lot of us over these last few years because he cannot stay healthy.
No.
Last year, he only played 8 games, though, and he had 44 receptions, 467 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And he's been in the league for 3 years now, and he had not been able to play all 16 games once. That's the issue with Evan Ingram. He has all the talent in the world, and when he's on the field, he gives you flashes of what he could be, and he could be very special. Especially in a team that desperately needs receiving help. I think he's somebody that could definitely step up, be the alpha pass catcher of this team. I think he's somebody that has all the talent in the world to do just that. He's going around 69 overall is ADP.
Nice.
And so if he can stay healthy and produce to the potential that he's shown that he can have value because you're getting him in the 6th, 7th round, and maybe he falls even more in your league and get him in the 8th or 9th, and you're talking about a tight end that if he can stay healthy, it's a plug-and-play tight end, and you don't have to worry about the tight end position.
Yeah.
So that's why he has value for me, and I don't think it's crazy that he finishes in the top 5 tight end if he stays healthy. If he stays healthy.
My number 6 is Mike Gesicki out of Miami. Now, the reason why I have him at number 6 is the potential of having Tua Tagovailoa throwing to him. Now, last year he had a really good year coming onto the scene. He only started 5 games, and he still was able to grab about 600 yards and 5 touchdowns. So that's pretty good for his kind of like coming out year. Maybe he'll even progress even more. Whoever's thrown to him, whether it's Fitzmagic or Tua, who knows. I hope it's Fitzmagic just for Tua's sake. But then again, if it is Tua, I would go ahead and I wouldn't draft Mike Gesicki. I would definitely pick him up in the waivers.
Because he'll probably be there.
He'll probably be there.
This is the kind of tight ends that we love.
This guy is a freak of nature, though. When he came out of Penn State, he ran a 4.5 40 and a 42-inch vertical. Last year, I think he was number 11 in a position. He was the number 11 tight end. So I'm not saying he's going to jump off. Like right now, we don't have, like, this is where it kind of drops off for me. Because, like, in the past, I'm reaching for Jack Doyle. The other ones are pretty solid players. Now, these are just off of potential. Right? For me, the rest of these guys are off of potential. They haven't done much, but the potential of these guys and this year that they're coming into, they can have the great potential of be something that could be a steal of the year. So This is why I have Mike Gesicki as my number 6.
Yeah, these are the kind of players that, like we talked about early in the episode, the kind of players you're looking for mid to late rounders in your draft.
Yeah.
The kind of players that you don't have to pay up an arm and a leg for. You're not missing out on a running back, on a wide receiver that are highly important, and have the potential to at least give you a viable option week in and week out at the tight end position, if not break out and win the league for you. Number 7, I have Jared Cook. Now, Jared Cook is a lot older, but he had 43 receptions last year, 705 yards, and 9 touchdowns in only 14 games. But he was actually the tight end 3 for the year if you take away the first 5 games of the season. He came from the Raiders, so maybe he was trying to get acclimated to the team, trying to get familiar with New Orleans, and if you take those first 5 games, he was the tight end 3 for the year. Now, New Orleans has added Emmanuel Sanders, and I get it. Jared Cook's just not a sexy option. just does not intrigue me that much to have a 30-some-year-old tight end. But he's in a great offense. He's in a offense with a great quarterback that knows how to use the tight end. And at the ADP of the late 9th to 10th round, he has great value. And that is what we're looking for with our tight ends. Great value and on a good team that can potentially produce week in and week out, so you don't have to have these headaches about your tight end. Drew, who's your number 7?
My turn? Okay. My turn is Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst didn't do much in Baltimore. He's a first-round pick from South Carolina. He's going to be a fantastic player for Atlanta. We talked about in the past, his change of scenery could definitely be something so beneficial for him. So we have Hayden Hurst coming in. I think that he can easily come in and be the new Austin Hooper. We don't really know that Austin Hooper is this elite talent other than like a product of the system. I don't want to hate Austin Hooper, but when you have Julio Jones as a number 1, and then you have Muhammad Sanu
for a while
at number 2, and then you have Calvin Ridley.
I think Calvin Ridley's number 2, but
yeah, he is now. But like I'm just saying, you have these really good players. They this defense is to worry about. They leave another guy open. I think that Hayden Hurst could potentially be. He's a first-round pick, something that Austin Hooper was not, and can come in and definitely benefit from that scheme. So I think this is just something, like I said, potential, not a guaranteed. This is a point we're not really going to be handing you out any guarantees other than Travis Kelce and George Kittle. So.
But Hayden Hurst is going in the 9th, 10th round. And so, again, value. You're getting these players late that could potentially break out. And so, no, I'm not telling you don't draft Travis Kelce in the 2nd round or Ertz or Mark Andrews in the 3rd. But think about what you're giving up. Look at the players around them. And think about who you're not going to have on your team.
Yeah.
And think about drafting that running back or that wide receiver and then waiting in the 10th round and taking Hayden Hurst or this other player who's number 8, Dallas Goedert. Dallas Goedert last year, 58 receptions, 607 yards, and 5 touchdowns as the backup tight end for his team. The backup tight end. He was the tight end 10 last year, again, as the backup. He averaged 7.7 fantasy points, and he has shown that he will be an elite tight end for years to come. But, of course, we've got to warn you that Zach Ertz is there. Zach Ertz will continue to be the alpha, the number 1.
Yes.
That's not in question here. But Philadelphia uses their tight ends so much that you have more than half of the league that does not even sustain one good fantasy tight end. And here you have a team that has 2 good fantasy tight ends. I love Dallas Goedert because of how safe he is. He was the tight end 10 last year. And think about this. What if Zach Ertz goes down? He's a top 5 tight end immediately.
Yeah.
A plug-and-play top 5 tight end. And so that kind of upside is what I am looking for. And right now, Dallas Goedert, got it right here, sorry, is going in the 15th round. It's ridiculous. Sometimes you can get him for free. And of course, this is all just kind of depends on your league. And of course, ADP is not stationary. It always fluctuates. It always moving. But a tight end that you can get almost for free that will have a safe floor with the ceiling of a top 5 tight end, I'm all for it.
I'm with you. He's my number 8 too. He's somebody that can easily get you a consistent, like, it's not going to blow you out of the water.
Right.
But like,
he averaged 7 points.
Exactly.
7.7.
So that's still good. That's better than Eric Ebron. But he's still going to be that safety blanket. Whether if Zach Ertz is on the field or not, Carson Wentz loves him some tight end. Same thing for Doug Peterson. They've always been reliant on a strong tight end class. And this is definitely something that I would really look into, maybe as your backup tight end, because we're not really, like I said, this is all potential. This is all upside.
Yeah, I mean, draft your team according to how the draft is playing out for you, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you guys what to do, but there's a lot of players out there who go, oh, look, no matter what is on the board, I go running back, wide receiver, quarterback. Sure, if that's what you want to do, go for it. But play the board.
Yeah.
Because if you're that kind of player, look, I'll go running back, but you're picking 10th and all. It was a very running back heavy, and Devontae Adams is right there. Why would you not take Devontae Adams? Just an example. Play the board. And so
you play to win the game.
And so if you're drafting and you're playing the board, and the board's telling you, okay, I'm taking this player and I'm taking that player, take the best player available, and you're sitting at the 10th round or whatever, and you still don't have a tight end, you're going to be fine taking Dallas Goedert.
Yep.
Number 9, I have Mike Gesicki from Miami. I like him as well, very much. I don't have him as high as you just because of the questions surrounding Miami. You know,
oh yeah.
We talked about they have Fitzpatrick and he did great last year, and sustained Devontae Parker and sustained Gesicki, but you were talking about the potential of having Tua there, but that's just a potential as of now. And if they bring him in too early, who knows? He gets injured, and he's done. But Gesicki will produce. It's just a question of how much and how are you willing to wait to see, because I think this is gonna be one of those players who will have a decent little floor of 4 or 5 fantasy, even 7 fantasy points a week, but he has that potential to break out. He has the skill, he has the opportunity, and he's one of my players that I'm waiting to see if they break out. Because listen to this, on the back half of the year last year, the last 8 games, he was the tight end 7. So he already had a little coming out party. So if he can break out, he's going to be a great tight end. Drew, number 10.
Number 10 or number 9?
Number 9, excuse me.
Number 9, I have Hunter Henry. I know that we kind of, I don't know, we didn't speak very good terms about him, but the thing is, he's a great player when he's healthy. Now, that's the problem. He has to stay healthy, but when he is healthy, he is making some huge game-changing plays. And I think that Tyrod Taylor will still value his talent. So, like I said earlier, this is all speculation. This is all on, the high notes. This is not guaranteed. But Hunter Henry, if you've already got a tight end and you need a backup, Hunter Henry will be there, and you should take him because he's got great potential. That's all I don't have. You can sit there and look at his stats. His stats aren't really that phenomenal, but when you look at how many games he played while racking up those stats, it's pretty special.
Yeah, he's an elite talent, and so
he is. It just sucks that he's always hurt.
It's always hurt, and the quarterback situation is the only thing that worries me. So I'm staying off Henry just for the record, but I understand why you have him at 10. I mean, at 10,
9. Run 9.
Excuse me, 9. Why am I so entranced with 10?
He's tired of doing this now. He's just like, hurry it up, let's get
this over with. I
guess
it's because now it's my turn for my number 10 tight end. And I'm going with Jonnu Smith from the Tennessee Titans. I think he has a fantastic opportunity to break out. Delaney Walker is finally gone. And he had 35 receptions last year, 439 yards, and 3 touchdowns. A.J. Brown is really the only established pass catcher in Tennessee. I think it's time to now say very clearly that Corey Davis is a huge bust, or was a huge bust, is a huge bust in Tennessee. And he probably won't be in Tennessee much longer. And if he is, it's irrelevant because it's like he's not there. So with only one good, clear pass catcher.
He's number 6 overall pick. He's not playing like it.
With only one good, clear pass catcher in the team, that leaves Jonnu Smith with an amazing opportunity to break out. And I think he has the talent. They even ran him out of the backfield a couple plays last year, and it was phenomenal. The guy's a beast. So he has all the talent in the world. He has all the opportunity in the world. And he goes to a team that maybe the passing game is not elite, but they have a good offense, and they're going to move the ball, and they're going to use him. I'm assuming they will use him quite a bit because, like I said, it's A.J. Brown and then Jonnu Smith. That's it. So I'm very excited about Jonnu Smith. That's my number 10.
Ready for my number 10?
Yes, you're number 10 finally now.
So I did not put my number 10
No, I know who
in the lineup for a reason. Because I didn't want you to take him. I didn't want you to be like,
Barf.
"Oh, yes, this is going to be the best." Okay. So my number 10 tight end is not only a 5-time Pro Bowler or a 4-time All-Pro, but he's also the WWE 24/7 World Champion, Robert James Gronkowski. Now, why would I put him in my top 10? Because Tom Brady officially lured him out of retirement. I love this because, no, I would not go after him as high as I would Travis Kelce, not in the long run, because right now he's going to be 30. He's going to come off of a lot of surgeries, a lot of injuries, but he's still going to be Tom Brady's favorite receiver. Yes, Mike Evans is going to be the best receiver that, talented-wise, besides Randy Moss, he's ever going to throw to. Same thing for Chris Godwin. So, move over Wes Welker. Sorry, Julian Edelman. His favorite player of all time is Robert Gronkowski. And he comes in here, and he averages half of what he used to. When he retired, he averaged 9.5 yards per reception. And I think that even though half of that would not be great, but I think he's still capable of averaging 9.5 yards. And then he's got 80 touchdowns. 80 touchdowns total in his career. 2010, 2011, 2012, 2014, 2015, he was a monster. Like, that was when he was all pros. But I think if he's half the player what he is, he can definitely be a great pickup off the waiver wire. But I would not draft him.
I think a lot of people are going to draft him for his name, but I didn't want to stop you because you were doing such a good job. But he lost the title 9 days ago. So I know that's probably going to drop him.
To who?
From your number 10th spot. I don't even know who he lost. I just remember him losing the belt on Raw on June 1st. It was. So I know that drops him from your number 10. Him losing a wrestling belt drops him out of your NFL fantasy rankings.
Forget it. Rob Gronkowski's trash. Do not listen to me. Let's go Greg Olsen out in Seattle. I don't know.
Wow. Okay. So that's it. But I do have a couple of honorable mentions. A couple of players that you should...
No, it's not honorable mentions. It's honorable minions right now.
Second language. Honorable mentions.
These guys are minions, but they are honorable.
And there are two players that, for me, didn't make it to my top 10. One of them made it to yours. But I just want to let everybody know these players could very well break out. And one is Hayden Hurst. I think you eloquently spoke to it earlier. How we really do believe that Austin Hooper was a product of Atlanta and not necessarily his talent. That sounds just mean.
It sounds mean, but it's the truth.
But Hayden Hurst has that opportunity now. And he could very much break through. The other one is Blake Jarwin. Blake Jarwin's the tight end for Dallas. Jason Witten is gone now. He went to Raiders, I think. Can't remember where he went. But Jason Witten is gone, and Blake Jarwin has all the opportunity in the world to take a step forward. I think a lot of people out there, a lot of us kind of were hoping that Jason Witten would leave because I like Blake Jarwin.
Yeah.
I think he's a great opportunity. He has great talent. And with this offense being so spread out, there's talent everywhere. You cannot zero in and focus on one player on this offense. Because if you do, immediately somebody else is going to hurt you. Whether it's Michael Gallup, $1 Million Man, Zeke, Blake Jarwin, whoever it is, they will hurt you. And so, very excited about this offense, and just keep an eye out for Blake Jarwin. This is one of those players who, at the end of the draft, you're going, you know what? Damn it. It's the second to last round, I still don't have a tight end. You're okay. You're okay. Take Blake Jarwin. Drew, you got anything else?
No, not football-wise, but I'd like to sign off by saying I'm here to remind you that you should never fry naked while cooking bacon. Never fry bacon naked.
That is a great advice. Life hack. I don't think anybody had ever thought that. Ever.
Just reminding you.
That's it. That's all we got. Next week, we'll have top 10 quarterbacks.
Fantasy
quarterbacks.
Fantasy quarterbacks.
Top 10 wide receivers as well. So we're very excited about that. Let us know if you like these fantasy episodes, and we'll keep doing more of them. We have a lot more. We can talk about mid to late round flyers, players that you can get basically for cheap that have a great opportunity to break out. Because trust me, I've learned this in my very, very finite and small experience playing fantasy football. You don't win your league with your first 2-3 rounds.
You win it with your tight end.
You win it with your mid to late round picks. You win it with your mid to late round picks. So that's very important. Maybe we'll have some videos talking about mid to late round flyers as well.
We'll see.
Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you guys next week. Hope you guys have a good week. Goodbye.
Bye.